Spring is here and we're all really excited about it. But sometimes we can get a little bit too excited when we're doing our spring lawn care. Everybody wants to get outside and start doing things to the lawn to help get summer to be here faster. And unfortunately, that's not always the best thing to do. For spring lawn care, the key word is patience. We want to let things start to regrow, resume growth naturally before we start over fertilizing, water, over mowing. It's easy to get out there and want to do different cultural practices, but let's just wait for that grass to really start growing to a level that we normally would expect. So let's get into some specifics. Mowing. Let's mow when the grass tells us we need to mow. Ideally, we want to be mowing to about 3 inches, and so we let the grass go to about 4.5 inches and then mow. In the summertime, an ideal growth rate would be about once a week. So you want to be growing about 1.5 new inches of leaves a week. But when it's the spring, it takes time for those leaves to grow. And so it might be 2-3 weeks between those first mowings. And then later in the spring, the grass will grow like crazy and you might need to mow more than weekly. And that brings me on to our next point, fertilizer. This is why we don't want to fertilize too early, because it won't do much for the grass now. It will sit in the soil, and then when the grass is warm enough and ready to grow, it's going to grow so fast you won't be able to keep up with your mowing requirements. No one wants to mow every 2 or 3 days in the middle of the spring. So you might think, okay, well, when should I fertilize? I need to put my pre-emergent herbicide down. If you need to do that application and you don't want to put fertilizer down, there are products that are just the pre-emergence herbicides. Otherwise, you could wait a little bit longer. We are still very early in the pre-emergence window. Generally, mid to late April for much of Nebraska is a fairly appropriate time to make those applications. If you go too early, you might need to make a second application in June because the products won't last for the entire summer. When it comes to other cultural practices, things like aeration, those can be done, but let's again let that grass start to resume growth. And then other types of cultural practices like power raking, things that are really going to beat up that turf, we really want to back that down until that growth rate starts to pick up. So when the growth rate ramps up, then you can start to use those more aggressive cultivation practices. So those are some of the big things to think about in the spring, and in doing so, you're setting yourself up for a really healthy lawn in 2021.